friend of ours was talking on the phone. She said you.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hi, and welcome to the Suzy Prudden Show. And I'm Suzy Prudden on LA Talk Live, where we're more than just talk. And I am so excited today to be with you. I have a very special guest. I always have a very special guest, but this person is particularly special in that she is my sister. And what's wonderful about this is, although I know her very well, I have to actually read you her bio because I don't know her bio. I just know her. She's my sister and my business partner and my writing partner and my, I used to get into trouble when we were kids.
Well, Suzy, I just want to give you a round of applause. Welcome back.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
Yes, I just wanted to do that real quick, get my little 2 cents in and say welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I have been very busy. I've been traveling around the world and doing workshops, doing seminars, taking workshops, taking seminars. I actually took a vacation in there. And now I'm back, and I will still be doing some traveling, but I'll be here more than there, wherever there may be at the time. So back to my sister. Her name is Joan Meyer. And Joan has been a published author since 1980 when she sold the cover story to Emergency magazine. She was my co-author for many years. We published our first book together in 1987. She's written over 20 fiction and nonfiction books, 6 novels, and the rest are nonfiction in every modality available. She's worked with major publishing houses, private printers, print on demand for pay, CreateSpace, digital publishing on Kindle, Nook, and other platforms, and ACX audio publishing. She coaches writers in self-publishing. I know nothing about self-publishing, so Joan is my perfect guest for that subject. I've always had publishers. And so when you say self-published to me, I literally, I'm like a deer in the headlights. I know nothing. So it's wonderful for me to welcome my sister, Joan Meyer.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, Joan, what big publishing houses have you worked with?
I've worked with Doubleday, Hay House, and HarperCollins. And those are the 3 big publishers. And now I self-publish, and I think it's the best thing that ever happened to writers, ever in the history of writing.
Well, a lot of writers have a really hard time with self-publishing, and they'll self-publish and all of a sudden end up with 1,000 books in their garage, and then they don't know what to do with them.
It's changed since the 1,000 books in the garage. You don't have to do that. You can just do print on demand, and with CreateSpace, you're guaranteed a place on Amazon. And with Ingram Sparks, the bookstores can order your books. There is everything for everyone, and it is really, really exciting. But Suzy, when we were back in our day of publishing together, the publishers would send you out on a 10-city tour or a 20-city tour. That's not usual. So most people say, I want to get a publisher so that they'll market me.
But they don't do that anymore,
They don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And so you have to really become proficient in self-marketing. I'll give you a couple of tips today on how to do that. And it's a lot of work, but you're in control. It's awesome.
So what are the benefits of self-publishing as compared to the big publishing houses? I mean, okay, I'm a big publishing house person. I'm comfortable there. As I told you on our way over here, I just called our agent. and I'm sending her my latest book. And I'm really comfortable in that milieu. Now, most people that I know today don't have a clue about that world. I know that world has changed, but what is it about self-publishing that's so wonderful? Why is it? Why have you found it so beneficial?
Well, first of all, publishers pay you between 7.5 and 15% royalty.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, out of which comes your agent fee. I make 70% royalty.
That's a big difference.
It's a huge difference.
So how do you make that? I mean, okay, when I've spoken with people who have a book that they've self-published, they usually talk to me from a place of discouragement because they don't know how to do something with it. What do you do so that you can get your book out there so that it sells?
Well, you do. The first thing that you do is you make sure that it is very well edited. You do a lot of research on cover. You can hire people to do this, but I do my own covers. I listened to a webinar where the man said, it'll take you $6,000 to get a book up, and I lost it. And I wrote him, I said, you and I live in very different worlds. It cost me $2.50 to get a book up. Of course, I don't count my time, but
wait, stop right there. So I hope you're paying close attention to what Joan just said, because there are a lot of people out there that say, just pay me $6,000 and I'll get your book up online. And what Joan just said was it costs her $2.50. Now, tell us how that works.
Well, I go online and I find a wonderful picture on any one of a number of stock photo things. I use Big Stock a lot, bigstock.com.
Now, are those photos free? Or do you pay a fee?
That's the $2.50.
Okay, there's your $2.50
right.
for the photo.
Right.
Okay.
And then I download it. They give you a chance of brightness, I guess is what you think, more higher definition. And I go with the second to the lowest, which is fairly cheap. That's the $2.50 or $5, it depends. Sometimes I have one book that I'm bringing out next fall that's going to cost me $60 for the photograph, because it's an AP photograph of an accident that I need to have on the cover of my book.
And that's an actual photograph?
That's an actual photograph of the bridge collapse in Minnesota.
Oh, that's a good book.
My book is about a bridge collapse.
Right.
So I'm using that photo.
And so that because that's a AP photo, that's $60.
That's why I have to charge so much. I pay so much.
But that's the only fee, right?
Yeah, because then I'll make my own cover. I write my own cover copy. I edit my own stuff. I do all the work and formatting and all of that, and then I post it. And it's a learning curve, but it's not. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
Well, I've watched you over the years, and I've seen you where you started not knowing anything at all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, at all. And then you learned and you learned and you learned and you learned, and you keep on learning.
That's the great part of it. I was listening to a webinar the other day, and this webinar is it's put out by wavecloud.com, and I really like the man Bill Van Ordsdale very much.
Repeat it.
Wavecloud, it's one word, .com.
And his name is Bill?
Bill Van Ordsdale.
Okay.
And he does wonderful research, and he puts out so much stuff. There's no way I can use it all. So I have decided that I will take one thing that I can act on from each of the webinars, which are once or twice a month. And that way it's manageable, because I tell you, there's so much that it's overwhelming.
So if someone were just starting out and they wanted to put their book up online, and it makes me nervous to tell people to edit their own stuff. So if someone can't edit, What do you recommend?
I recommend Jan. What's
Van Ofree. No,
Yeah.
not Van.
Onofrio.
Onofrio.
Jan.
So,
I'm sorry.
no, wait, let's do this. If you're interested in having your book edited, Joan knows somebody that will do a very good job for very little money. And what is the email address that they can write you so that they can get Jan's information?
Joan, Joan, Meyer, Meijer, 123 @gmail.com.
Great. That's Joan Meyer, JoanMeijer 123 @gmail.com. And before we go forward, I want to explain why Joan's last name is spelled differently than other Meyers, like Meier and Meyer. It's Meijer. It's Dutch. And her former husband is Dutch, and so the name is Dutch. And Joan always knows when a telemarketer is calling because they can't pronounce her last name, and they always pronounce it Meijer. And as soon as someone calls for Joan Meijer, she basically hangs up.
I also used to run a complaint department, and by the time we'd gotten through my name, we were best friends.
So I have to say, if you see me pointing at Joan like this every once in a while, because I am, Joan has a habit of making noises with getting, she likes to play the drums on the table. And so I just keep reminding her to stop.
Actually, it's Rachmaninoff's piano concerto.
Whatever it is, it's noisy. And our mics are very sensitive, and I don't want you getting the drums in your ears. So one thing besides, after the editing, because that to me is monumental.
Yeah, editing and formatting are challenging, and if you really get your pens out, if you really want a good place to find out how to format and get your manuscript ready, the place is Smashwords, SMASH words.com, and they have a really, really, really good, they are a platform on which I publish, and they have a really good instructional booklet on all the little things you need to know.
And then how long does it take you to read the little booklet with all the things you need to know?
I never read anything through. I look through to see what I need. I'm very bad that way. But
it's like if when I get a new appliance, I plug it in, and then I try and figure it out. Now, I could read the instructions, but I usually don't. So
exactly, that's how
But
I've taken many a bookcase apart again.
Well, if they have a picture, I like the picture. Picture speaks 1,000 words. So one small thing, tell us all the different, you've got a lot of books up in a lot of places.
Mm-hmm. There's different types of places. There's the ebook digitals, and on that I'm on Kindle, Nook Press, which is Barnes and Noble, Kobo, Writing Life.
Kobo what?
I think it's Writing Life or Writer's Life.
Okay.
I did write it down. Wait, I was really smart. Writing Life. How about that? And then I do not have a Mac. If you can load onto iTunes if you have a Mac. If you don't have a Mac, I use a thing called Draft, 2 digital.com, and that gets you onto iTunes. Now, both Smashwords and Draft to Digital they send out to a number of different platforms. But if I can get Amazon to pay me directly, then I don't have to pay them a commission. So I don't sign up for that on either of those things. Same for Kobo and Nook Press. Both of these companies are offering something called Scribd, and Smashwords is offering something called Oyster. And both of them are really excited about this because you get 2 cents and I don't see the benefit of it, except that people can a lot. It's exposure, but it's really I don't like it, and those two things are not in control of protecting you. So I would suggest that at this time, at least until it's really proven, and lots of writers are saying I sold lots of books through it, that you just opt out of those opportunities. I don't think there are opportunities.
Well, that sounds basically like you're just giving your books away for free.
Oh, you do a lot of that, but
yes, but that's a different.
Yeah, I think so too. And Amazon is following suit. They think it's a good thing, and I've heard a lot of discussion about it, and I know my own feelings that I'm just not going to. I'm just not about to support the readers that way. They can support me. It's less than a cup of coffee to buy my book. I see no reason to charge 2 cents for it. I feel very strongly about that.
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. It's one thing to give it away as a promotion piece, and another thing to be giving it away because there's no other way to get rid of it, so to speak.
Yeah, and some of it's months and years in preparation.
Well, I know how hard you have worked and how long it takes you to write a book. I mean, imagine all of you who are writers, how long does it take you to write a book? It takes a while. And so to give it away for 2 cents doesn't make sense to me. And even when I was publishing with big publishers, I mean, I did make money. I tell people when they're all excited they're going to make a ton of money writing a book. Most authors don't make a lot of money writing books. Most authors use the book, as they say, as a business card. I think a book should be both. I think you should make money from your books, and I think that they also give you status. But to just have it as a business card, that's an expensive business card, not only in money, but also in time. And time you can't get back. So you started with what? How did you start?
I started writing erotica.
Oh, that's a great story. That is the best story. You have to tell that story. You're going to love this story. Tell the story.
So I have a friend. We have breakfast together, and we talk about writing. And one day she came in, she said, I just heard from a friend of mine, and she said she makes $400 a month writing erotica. She actually said smut. And I sort of
your brain tweaked.
Yeah, because the only time I had ever written anything close to approaching erotica is if I really want to make you dislike a villain or afraid of him, I make him really kinky. So,
I want you to know, both my sister and I are over 70, so you have to understand, this was, when Joan told me this, I just thought it was such a hoot. Such a hoot.
So
okay.
I went home and I wrote my first erotic piece, and it was the end of a novel that I'd always wondered how it turned out. So I wrote it, and I posted it.
Was that The Naughty Nun?
No, that was next. No, that was after Larry's List. So at any rate,
you can tell the two of us have a lot of fun together.
We do.
Except when we live together.
Oh no, then we want to kill each other.
We've written 4 or 5 books together. I don't even know how many, but we always wrote them on the phone. So we're talking to each other from distant, when she was in New York and I was in California, or even when we're both in California, we're always on the phone. So we spent 7 years sharing an apartment. We didn't write one book.
No, we did. We hardly talked to each other.
So I told her one day, I said, why don't I call you from my office, which was literally next door to her bedroom. I call you from my office to your office, and we'll write on the phone, because we're not writing together. You know what? We did write one book together when we were in the same room, and that was Change Your Mind, Change Your Body.
That was right. You were in my apartment.
I was in your apartment, but I didn't sleep there. I stayed at a friend's house, and I just arrived in the morning and left in the evening. So we weren't living together, but we did write together. So I got way off track, and we were talking about erotica.
Okay, so I wrote the story. I posted it on Kindle, and it sold. I said, oh, this is promising. Never had this happen before. So then I wrote Adventures on Larry's List. And this is where you begin to want somebody like me around, because I've made every mistake in the book. So we were charging 99 cents, which means you only make 35%. So it's like no money. And I was selling out the window. And this was Adventures on Larry's List were two women who couldn't meet men to date that they liked, so they decided to sell their services because they knew that people appreciate things they pay for better than they do things for free. So they had a great business going. And unfortunately, they kept falling in love with their clients, which was
not a good
thing. So then I started writing The Naughty Nun, and all her solutions are sexual, and she's going to solve the problems of the church's sexuality through helping, and that sold really well. Then I wrote wrote The Virgin Bride, and that sold very well. So I've made quite a bit of money. And then I discovered that you should charge $2.99 and people will still pay you. And so then I really started making a lot of money. And so the erotica supports me. I make good money that way.
So you were having a conversation with your daughter the other day. You told me about that.
When I first started writing erotica, my daughter was so angry at me. She wouldn't allow me to tell her friends. She wouldn't allow me to mention it.
How old is your daughter?
40-something. Well, I'm 75. She's my...
She's your youngest.
She's my youngest. And so about 2 days ago, she said, "Are you writing any erotica now?" And I said, "Well, no, I've been working on my novels." And she said, "I don't want your income to drop. You better start writing some more erotica."
Joan lives with her daughter and son-in-law and grandson, and so the three incomes make a difference.
Oh yeah.
And when one income goes down, they experience it. So you did very well. I have actually the son of a very dear friend of mine, is a very, very well-known, high-paid Hollywood writer today, and he started 30 years ago writing erotica. That's where that supported him so that he could do what he really wanted to do, which was to write the screenplays that now he's getting paid a lot of money for. But 30 years ago, what supported him was the erotica.
It's fun, and what really is fun is when you get a good plot going or a good character going. I love The Naughty Nun. She is just hilarious.
You said to me one day the only boring part about writing the erotica is the erotica.
Exactly.
The plot is exciting, the characters are exciting, the story is exciting, the sex
I gotta write a sex again.
Oh God, I gotta write a sex again.
Yeah, it's sort of like being with the same husband for 40 years.
Well, actually, I've been told I don't have that experience, so that can be pretty good, but I don't know. So tell me, okay, so you've got the erotica line, and then what other genres do you have?
Under the name of John Russell, I write thrillers. And the reason I write thrillers under the name of John Russell is because I write other things under the name of Joan Meyer, and I want it to be easy for my audience to look at a book, to see it's a John Russell book, and to know
what
it's a thriller.
Yeah.
If Robert Ludlum wrote a romance, two things would happen. The romance people wouldn't buy it because it would be Robert Ludlum, and his audience would hate it. So,
well, that's what happened to us with Change Your Mind, Change Your Body.
Yes,
because that was. I mean, I'm known in my other lifetime, in this body, not as in other lifetime.
Past life
we're
regressions.
not going past. I'm a hypnotherapist. But we're not going there. I am known in the fitness field because starting in 1972, that's when I wrote my first fitness book with my then husband, and because I couldn't write, and the good news was he could, so we wrote the book. My ideas, his writing, and so it was for 1972 until I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. I published fitness books, and then when I decided I didn't want to do that anymore, I wanted to go into the metaphysical world, and so Joan and I wrote 2 books in that genre, and the interesting thing is the covers had me in a leotard, but the titles were metaphysical.
And the publishers.
And the publisher.
Harper San Francisco is a metaphysical publisher, and so is Hay House.
They're both metaphysical publishers, so we have a metaphysical publisher, a metaphysical topic, and me in a leotard, which you won't see me in again. And the bookstores didn't know what to do with them. And also, the interesting thing happened because I known in the fitness world that when I shifted genres, the salespeople in the books who buy the books, they didn't know, it was totally confusing. They didn't know where to put me.
Well, that's another reason for self-publishing, because you're in control of the cover art. I remember having the conversation with Harper.
I remember
and
that
saying
too.
You cannot put Suzy on the cover in a leotard. She has to be more woo-woo than that. You have to somehow, even if you just do a pattern, you can't put her in a leotard. And they didn't put you in one leotard. They put you in
5.
7.
I know.
And the whole thing was like, this is never going to sell.
Yeah, you said this is never going to sell, and it didn't. And
it was a good book.
It's a great book.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem was, and this is important. So if you, the listener, the watcher, if you have different topics that you're passionate about and you want to write in all those topics, then be open to having several different names, nom de plumes, so that you don't confuse your readers. And if you do end up in a bookstore, you don't confuse the salespeople. And I don't mean the people on the floor. I mean the salespeople who are looking for books to buy for that bookstore. So how many genres do you have, and how many names do you have?
Well, I do Joan Meyer Hirschland when I'm doing your stuff. For example, I do Joan Meyer when I'm doing alternative histories. Like I wrote a book about Typhoid Mary called Relentless, The Search for Typhoid Mary. And that's a Joan Meyer book. Then I do John Russell. I do the thrillers. And Joan Russell does my erotica. And so there's 4 general things, 4 general names. Now I might go hog wild and do another whole genre and then start another name, but right now I'm only on
your plate's full.
My plate is so full. I have so many books to write. It's unbelievable.
Isn't it wonderful?
That's wonderful.
You get to do that. So I wanted to ask you, we're going to take a break in a minute, and if you want to call in and ask Joan a question, the number here is 323-473-3100. That's 323-473-3100, and you can ask a question, and Joan can give you an answer or not. See, that's what happens when you're sisters. And I've got other stories about that, too. So you've got 4 names, 4 genres, and what's your favorite?
I love writing the thrillers, but having said that, I like writing I'm about to write 2 of my short stories into full novels, my erotic short stories into full novels. And I think that that's going to be fun.
So how do you price a full book, and then you price, because your eroticas are, what, 4,000 words, 3,500 words?
They were, but the erotic market has changed, so they want between 10 and 15,000 words.
Oh, they want much longer
yeah.
books now.
Yeah, they complain if you write a 3,500 word. It used to be 2 opening paragraphs, a whole bunch of sex, and 2 closing paragraphs. And that was it. It's changed. Now you have to have plot and character.
Well, that's more fun for you.
Way more fun.
You said the sex was the boring part.
Yeah.
I know. I get to a book, and I get to that part when the author thinks, okay, now I'm really going to titillate my reader, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, and I skip ahead, and I skip ahead, and back to story again.
Well, except with the naughty nun, because
no, she's
wild. I mean, she's just.
Well, I love the scene in the confessional when the whole thing falls down. You know, I called my sister one time, and she answered the phone crying, And what you were working on Providence
I was
then?
working on the Providence.
She was working on. This is when I was living here. This is 20 years ago. She was living in New York City at the time, and I called her. Hello, and I said, "What's wrong?" And you can hear the computer. I just killed the baby.
I couldn't read that part for years.
You have to understand, and those of you who are writers, I know you do, and those of you who are not yet writing but you want to write, the book takes over. It just takes over.
Yeah.
And so when Joan started that page, probably you had no idea you were going to kill the baby, or the baby was going to get killed.
Well, I knew the baby was going to die, but I had I mean, they're saying goodbye to the baby, and they're telling him how much they love him and how they hope he finally got his foot in his mouth. And I'm like, just absolutely dying.
And it's all coming through her head onto the page. So when that happens, stay with it.
Yeah.
Because it'll be brilliant. We're going to take a break now, but then when we come back, I'll tell you a story about what happens to us. We're in the middle of writing together on the phone in different states. So stay tuned. We've got some important messages for you, and we'll be right back with Joan Meyer, my guest. I'm Suzy Prudden, and this is the Suzy Prudden Show. We'll be right back. Hi, and welcome back. I'm Suzy Prudden, and this is the Suzy Prudden Show. And my guest is my sister, Joan Meyer, who is also my writing partner and who also is a self-proclaimed self-publishing master, which is actually really true. She's done an amazing job. But I wanted to tell you a story. Well, first, there's so many things happening. Van Erich asked a very good question during the break. And he asked Joan, what happens when somebody meets you as John Russell and here you are, Joan Meyer? And what Joan said was,
well, I thought about that, and I know that coming up there's a book, This Bridge, that we just talked about, that I want to publish on. I mean, I would really want to promote on radio, because it's a cautionary tale.
It's a fabulous book.
Yeah, it's about what happens if we don't start paying attention to our infrastructure. So it's a huge accident where this entire bridge comes down and people are killed and whatever. But I want to talk about it. So how do I talk about it if I write about it as John Russell? Well, I'm very upfront about John Russell is the pen name for Joan Meyer in the thriller genre. And so there you are. I mean, you if you have a problem, you just have to bring it out and talk about it. And that
I always say that to my client when they tell me, yes, but I'm afraid of this happening, or yes, I'm afraid of that happening. And I always say, well, then talk about the fear first. I remember the first time I was speaking in front of my quote unquote peers in the fitness industry. And now I've been in the fitness industry since, well, I was born in it because of our mother, Bonnie Prudden. And so there was never a time I wasn't in the fitness industry. There just wasn't the fitness industry when we started. That happened later. But so here I am in front of my quote unquote peers, and I was terrified. And there's no reason for the fear. It was a non-reason. Well, most fear has no reason.
That's mind chatter.
Yes. And so I addressed it, and I said, I want you to know this is the first time I've ever spoken in front of my peers. I'm usually speaking to people who are listening to me because I am the expert, but I'm in a room of experts, and I'm terrified. And then I went on and did my talk.
Yeah.
And so it's always addressed. But I wanted to say something before that, before the break. This is how we used to live together, too. When Joan and I write books together, now in 1998, we were working on Meta Fitness. And Joan was in New York, and I was here in California. Of course, you're wherever you are, audience. And we were working on the telephone with our computers. Now, this is before the internet.
This is in 89.
Yeah. Didn't I say that?
98, your dyslexia kicked in.
Oh, okay. 89. Like I said, 89. 1980. No, it was 88 because the book came out in 89.
That's right.
Okay, so it's 1988. Some of you aren't even old enough to know what 88. Anyway, so 1988, we're on computers. Now, I've had my computer for 3 years at that point. And it was a big clunker, big IBM clunker. And it was hard to travel with. And now you just slip them in your briefcase or your purse. And so there was no internet, and there was no email, and there was none of that. But we did have cut and paste, thank God. And we're on the telephone, and so like this, talking to each other and typing. And usually Joan would say, wait a minute, I've got an idea. And then I would hear the computer keys clacking away, clacking away, clacking away. And I would think, okay, so what am I going to do now? She's busy, she's writing. So I would start to write just because I had nothing else to do. And I've got the computer and we're writing on a book, so I'm writing. And then she would usually say, I'm done now. And I would say, well, wait a second, I'm not quite done. And then I'd be done. And then she would read her piece, and I would read my piece, and they would fit.
Yeah. It was really funny.
And neither one of us knows to this day who wrote what in any of the books that we've written.
That's right.
Because it flowed. And so, but that's a whole other, again, another genre, because that was published. And now you're working in the self-publishing market. What's a gem that people need to know that can really boost their sales in the self-publishing market?
I just learned it the other day. I'm so excited about it because I've been looking at Twitter and going like, what's that for? I'm not a Twitter person. So I was listening to this webinar, and they said what you do is you do that number thing, that hashtag thing, and I
also don't know how to do this. So
you
this is
type
good for me
in the name of somebody that you're like my medical thrillers are like Tess Gerritsen. So I would type in hashtag Tess Gerritsen, and then I would start joining her Twitter site, and I would get to know the people who read her, and I would get to know her and how she talks to her people, and I would begin to contribute. And pretty soon, when I announce that I'm bringing out a book that's a medical thriller, then those people will probably, because they now know me and I have a relationship with them, would buy my book.
So what's the difference in pricing when you have a book and a little book?
Okay, so the little book, I usually do my novels at around $4.99.
And how long is a novel?
That's an ebook. My novels are anywhere between 67,000 words and 93,000 words.
How many pages is that?
Well, you can't really say because I make the longer books smaller print, so they all come out about the same size.
And why do you do that?
Because I don't want to waste the paper, and I don't want to drive the price up. I mean, if I did everything at 12 point, then my 93,000 word book would be up around 375 pages. That's a very big book.
It is a big book.
And so I just dropped it.
I like big books.
Yeah, I like big books, but I like to make a profit out of them and not have my people have to pay so much.
I mean, reading big. I mean, if you hand me a book that's this,
I know that because you gave me one of those, and I. Yeah, it's very heavy.
I actually don't mind traveling with books like that, and I fly all over the world.
Yeah,
and I don't mind traveling with a book. I mean, Ken Follett's got
that's
some
what I was just thinking of him.
Amazing, and they're thick books.
Yes. So, so I usually charge around $12 for a paperback. Here's a good question: why, if you're on 5 emails, e-zine sites, do you need a paperback? Simply because only 50% of all books in the world are sold on the e-zine sites, and 50% are sold in paperbacks.
I didn't know that. I thought more people would be buying them on the e-zine sites now.
We're a little over 50%.
Interesting.
Of which 80% is Amazon. Amazon is really, and Amazon, they must stay awake at night and say, how can we, I don't know if they want to help their authors, but how can we use what our authors do to make money is a question they must have in their minds. They just came out with children's book publishing, where they can publish the illustrations so that you can now publish your illustrated children's books.
So you supply the illustrations, or they have a site for the illustrations?
They're publishing. Don't confuse the two.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you. So I have several clients who are looking for, they want to publish their children's book, and that's a very, 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 very tight market.
Yep.
So now Amazon has children's publishing, so that what's the one that's called that where you can buy one book at a time on Amazon? Or I'm wrong here. What company has it where you can publish one book at a time?
You can publish all of them.
All of them do?
Yeah.
Okay, so now they have the children's side of it where you can do one book at a time. Illustrated.
Yes. Yes, they'll publish your illustrations.
Phenomenal.
That they've worked out the whatever algorithms or whatever. That is brilliant. And they publish, they have ACX, where the Typhoid Mary story now is on audio. And a wonderful actress read it, and it's now they're working in conjunction. They bought Audible, so now you can not only have your paperback and your ebooks, but you can have audiobooks too that you can get right through Amazon. They're all on the same page so that you can market them together. It's real. They are. Well, I'll tell you a story. In the same week,
could you tell me a story?
I'll tell you a story. In the same week, I get from Amazon, we can now help you with your marketing because you can track your sales in present time, which is brilliant. I mean, you change your cover and you see
and you know if it's working or not.
Immediately whether it's working or not. At the same week, I get an email from Barnes & Noble. We are so excited. You can now be an associate and help us grow our business with your books. Amazon had that 20 years ago. It is, and why would I want to do that if you're not doing anything for me?
Right.
So it is the most, and I don't love Amazon. I don't feel that they always treat me well, but I admire their business sense. I can't begin to tell you. They deserve to be. But I learned something new. Okay, there's so much.
Wait, stop a second. We have to start a new talking point.
New talking point?
I understand that you've just learned something new.
I have. Surprise. So the people like Barnes & Noble that have bookstores and things are really annoyed at Amazon's amazing success. They really are. And they refuse to buy hardcover books from Amazon. In comes Ingram, which is one of the great world distributors.
Well, yeah, you can't get a book in a bookstore without going through Ingram. And
now for the indie publishers, there's Ingram Spark, and the bookstores can order from them without having to go through Amazon.
so now, is Amazon cut out, or it doesn't matter?
It's the publisher. It always going to make.
So Amazon is the publisher, and the bookstores wouldn't buy it directly from Amazon.
But they will buy it from Ingram.
But they'll buy it from Ingram, who's buying it from Amazon. So Amazon is selling them the book anyway.
Right.
Is it
I love it.
Now here's the bigger question. Is it more expensive to buy a book through Ingram's than it is directly from the publisher?
Probably not. I mean, I set the price. I haven't published through Ingram Spark yet because it costs $50 to put your book up, and I've been paying for dog food, so
This week.
So as soon as
They've got 5 dogs. You have 5 or 6 dogs.
We have 5 dogs, 4 cats, and a chicken.
Okay.
We used to have a chicken and a duck, but we have a wolf, or part wolf
Was
hybrid.
he playing with the duck?
He was playing with the duck, and the duck died. So
It's
So wait a minute. We have a caller too, though, so let the caller.
it was
in
the
first.
duck that did it.
okay. Okay, we have a caller. You're on the air.
Oh, okay.
Oh, pick up the phone.
No, they hung up.
Oh, they hung up. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so the duck did it.
The duck did it.
So the duck was playing with the wolf, or the wolf was playing with.
Just went over and said hi.
Oh, he just put his paw on him. That's a big dog.
It's a huge
dog. I tell you, it's the gentlest, sweetest, most adorable, loving dog that's about this big.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes.
he's huge.
But the thing that's funny is his best friend is a Chihuahua mix. And they play
It's like
together.
Marmaduke.
And
Yeah.
he picks the little dog's toy up and holds it just where he can't reach. And the little dog is just...
He also picks the little dog up and carries him around in his mouth.
It's like this video I saw on Facebook where they show this lady driving on this road. It's real dark. It's just her headlights, and a dog comes out of nowhere, and she thinks she hits the dog, so she backs up. The dog's laying on the side, so she gets out the car, walks over to the dog. I guess she gets on the phone to call somebody. The dog jumps up, runs to her car, gets behind the wheel, and drives off. I thought that was so funny.
I love that.
I just saw, I was playing on Facebook yesterday. There's a gentleman on his cell phone throwing a stick to his dog. And the dog races off into the water and grabs the stick and comes running back. And the guy takes it and gets back on his cell phone. And he throws the stick. And the dog goes out and gets it, and he races back. And the guy picks up the stick from the dog, and he throws his cell phone into the water.
Oh, no. Oh.
It was wonderful. I knew it was going to happen, and I had to watch it anyway.
I have a story about that. Okay, so I have a son who's a guide. He has a hunting and fishing business in Vermont called Wilderness Trails in Quechee, Vermont. And he had a dog named Herbie. And he trained Herbie to fetch with a stick. And so he decided to take Herbie out hunting with him.
Now, you have to understand, Peter is the consummate hunter.
And fisherman.
And chef. He's
he's
a world-class chef and a hunter and a fisherman. So now they're going hunting for duck.
Right. So he shoots the duck, and he goes, "Go get it, Herbie." And Herbie looks at him and he says, "Go get it, Herbie." So Herbie jumps in the water, goes out, pushes the dog aside looking for the stick. And he comes back and shakes himself all over Peter. And Peter says, "Go get it, Herbie." Herbie jumps in the water, goes out, pushes the duck around looking for the stick. Peter had to wade into ice cold water to get his own duck.
and it's really hard to start throwing ducks around
This really is.
for training. So I have, we're going to have to get back on track here.
We always have
But I think it would be a good idea if you just came on one day and we just told stories.
Oh, we could do that.
Yes.
We have many.
We have many. So let me find another question. And please, if you want to ask Joan a question, give us a call at 323-473-3100. That's 323-473-3100. And Joan, if you've got some webinars coming up and some tips for the audience, how do they get in touch with you so that you can send them what your latest, either the latest book you've got coming out or tips for getting on self-publishing? So
Yes, if they just, again, the same email address, Joan Meyer, that's MEIJER 123 at gmail.com. And I have a whole bunch of things that I made up for a course I'm teaching this week with all of the email addresses. I'll be happy to send. Anyone.
So you'll have a cheat sheet so that people can, and it's a free. You'll just send it to them, and great. And then when you've got a book coming out or a new piece of information, you can let them know, and a webinar, and let them know.
Yeah.
So that's Joan Meyer, JoanMeijer 123 at gmail.com.
So I just wanted to say that when I first started, I didn't know that Kindle publishes under Kindle Direct Publishing. So I'm looking through Amazon. It's like looking through bushes. Where is this publishing site? So, and then Nook Press is Barnes and Noble. So where on Barnes and Noble is Nook Press? So there are names for all these places where you upload.
So how many companies are you working with right now? And it's you send the same book to all of them. Is that correct?
Yes, and you have to be very careful to make sure that it's their edition. So because
that's an important distinction. Please explain that.
Okay, so in the beginning it says the Naughty Nun published on Kindle by JEM Publishing Group, which is my publishing house. And then later on it says the Kindle licensing agreement and those kinds of things. I made the mistake of sending that edition to iTunes, and I could not publish again for a while with them because they got really. You can't do an iTunes with Kindle written all over it, and you can't do a Kindle with iTunes written all over it.
So you have to be very, very specific in your design for each different group that you're going to publish with.
Yeah, you can do it with a global change. I mean, it's not hard, but you just have to make sure that you keep track of all the things that you do. And then they will send you a notification that it's published, and you go to, they say to see what it looks like, press here, and you press here, and it takes you to the page. Then you copy that address, and you paste it somewhere where you're keeping track of email addresses. So later on when you're marketing and you in the back of the book you say, if you like this book you can read such and such, and then you if you're using an ebook, then you can make the link right there.
Right.
So that's you keep track of everything, and I have a system where I all the things that I need to know, the description, the samples, the email addresses, if I do take advantage of a special sale, how long that sale lasts. I keep track of all that stuff.
So you're teaching a course later this week at a college, and you're going to be teaching this to the general public. How, again, do they just write you and say, when are you teaching that course at Joan Meyer at
No,
Gmail?
that's a closed course, but I would be happy if anybody wants to get 5 people together, I'll be happy to teach a course.
And okay, great. So we'll talk about that the next time you're here.
Yeah.
Now I had a question and I didn't keep track of it. So you basically, so each different publishing group has its own format for their books. Is that correct?
No, Smashwords is the outlier. Smashwords insists that you do that you if you're going to make spaces between things, then you have to make spaces between even every paragraph, and you can't have indentations. So you have to completely reformat everything.
So it's basically important for people to notice what the format is. For
They'll tell you.
Okay.
They'll write back and say, you didn't do this or you didn't do that. Or
Okay.
The other thing that's really, really challenging is the cover art. Not just because of the cover art, but because everybody has a different size. I mean, I publish on the Wave Cloud, and they have a teeny little thing that's 215 high and 150 low, wide. And then you get onto Smashwords, and it has to be 1,000 wide and 2,500 tall. So you have to know. What I do is I save the link, and then I put in who it's for.
How do you keep track of all this?
In the computer. I'm very.
Well, I know that, but how do you keep track of it in the computer? I mean.
Okay.
I have a computer. I don't know where anything is.
Oh, but I have a system, and
see.
Okay.
She has I do other kinds of systems. This is
Okay.
I don't do this. I don't know how to do this. That's why I'm asking the question.
All right. So I have an A to Z. I have a folder A, and under A I have anything that has to do with an A. All right. So for example, I'm teaching a course with Adam Berkeley, and Adam Berkeley is A, and he has his thing. And if I want to think about Adam, I'll either look under A or B, Adam or Berkeley. I have a book called Hard Hats. It's under H. I have a book called Accidental Consequences.
It's under A.
It's under U because it used to be under. I just thought I'd bring that up.
She had to do that, right? That's what older sisters are for.
I have T is tranquility. You know, all of
No,
my-
but I mean all the little like the links and stuff like that.
Okay, so
Well, links would be under L.
No. I have in my smut file.
And that's S for smut. Okay.
I have blurbs.
That's not.
BLURBS.
Okay, so you have under S you have then a B.
Then I have under S I have blurbs and whatever.
Okay.
And then under blurbs and whatever I have a tracking device for, and all the tracking goes into there. It just does. It's just arbitrary. But if I want to find a blurb, I can find a blurb, and I can find a link, and I can find all kinds of things, all in one.
And so you're going to teach this to people, yes?
If they want to learn it, I have found that using the alphabet is a real good shortcut to keeping track of things.
Yes.
Yes.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
So one last question. I hear a lot about blogging.
Okay. That's a very good question. Only blog if you like to blog. I hate blogging. I find it, if I'm in the middle of a book and I have to stop to write a little thing that I think is going to be interesting, I am not interested in writing a little thing that I think is going to be interesting for somebody to read. I just not. So I was blogging, and it's almost as boring as sex. It's like, I don't like to blog. But if you like talking to people, that's a great way to communicate. That's just awesome. I don't spend a lot of time reading stuff on Facebook either. But I'm very happy to put up my books and tell people what's going on and offer them free copies. I'll send a free copy of any of my books to somebody in exchange for a review, and it doesn't even have to be a good one. If you don't like it, say so.
So I did send you that link that I talked to you about last night on your Facebook page.
Oh, good.
I did figure it out.
That's awesome.
So, I know, it's like that's not my expertise. I'm a hypnotherapist and an interviewer, and Facebook is not my expertise.
No,
but
Facebook isn't my expertise either. But for example, there is a page or a place on Facebook for thriller novels where all the thriller novels are talked about. Well, mine are going to go there too.
That's smart.
Yeah.
So how do you get yours there?
I just post a thing about it with a link, and then the picture comes up. I mean, it is not rocket science.
I said that to a client of mine one time because we were talking about something very simple in terms of what we were doing. I said, it's not rocket science. And she said, I'm a rocket scientist.
Yeah.
I worked for NASA for 10 years. And I thought, well, then, okay, it's not, I don't know, spaghetti and meatballs, but whatever it was. So how do you market?
Well, it's a lot in little increments. The Twitter thing that I told you about is marketing.
Right. Do you mention Facebook?
The Facebook thing where I found the thriller novels. I just get my book up there and people see it. I get reviews, and reviews are, I have to say, reviews are very important when you're a writer, and they're not difficult to get, but it takes pursuit. Because that gives you credibility.
Right.
Somebody read your book and liked it. And you don't have to get all 5 stars. When I first got my first 4.5 stars, I was really bereft. But that means that my Uncle Sam didn't read the book and my Aunt Matilda didn't read the book. That means that somebody read the book and thought it was... So 5 stars are great. They're wonderful. But a 3 star is good too. Because it shows that there's various opinions about it, and it shows that it's not all just your family reading it and saying, I'll give you 5 stars, you know. And sometimes I had a friend who asked me to review her book, and it was a really good book, but it had real problems with the graphs because it was designed to be read on a phone, and you couldn't read the graphs. So I said, you're either going to have to make the graphs flexible, or you're going to have to write the book as if the graphs didn't exist. So that's a problem that's coming up with the fact that many people are now using their phones in order to read. And I don't know how they're going to solve it, but it is a problem.
So they'll solve it. They now have websites that you can see on the phone. So they'll have books that you can see on the phone. So we're going to have to call an end to this, and I'm going to invite Joan back. And if you send us your questions at joanmeyer123@gmail.com. Send Joan your questions. We'll answer them next time she's a guest. She'll answer them directly to you, or you can contact me at Suzy Prudden, SUZYPRUDDEN @gmail.com. And remember, I'm very happy to invite you to have a free consultation with me if you've got an area in your life where you're stuck and you want to move forward. I'm Suzy Prudden. My guest has been Joan Meyer. Yay. And this is the Suzy Prudden Show, and we'll see you next week. And I'm very glad you joined us. This is LA Talk Live, where we're more than just talk. See you next time.